So there's a news story that there are too many barbershops, Turkish barber shop. So I came to the center here to see if there are any barbershops. So this is one, and then number two. So two, this is a town of about 10,000 people, 100,000 people. So the idea is that they said, okay, this is another one. This is like beauty salon. It's not a barbershop, but technically they do the same thing. So anyway, so three, I would say. So let's see if there are more whilst we talk about that. So the news article basically said that in the UK, England, Wales, probably at Northern Ireland, I'm not quite sure, but anyway, it says that there are a lot of the Turkish barbershops are just basically taken over, and people have a lot of things to say about those, and they're complaining basically that that is just not normal, that they're taking over the place. And not even just that, they're saying, all right, so this is another barbershop, so this is just across the road from the one we saw previously, and so you come here to get your haircut. They've got 3 seats, the barbers are waiting on you. So 3. Let's see. I'm sure there are more here. It's just like the more you pay attention to them, the more you see them. This is an electronic shop. All right. So the question is, are there too many Turkish barber shops? And then people said, well, because why was it a topic of conversation? Was because the barbershops, it says about 33 barbershops were raided, and the police seized a lot of money, and they seized about £500,000. And you're thinking, barbershops with £500,000? Okay, maybe multiple, but anyway. And then the whole story basically is that they raided about 33, and people said, it's about time. What have they been waiting for? Everyone knows that these Turkish shops were just a front. And they said, whilst you're at it, you should raid all the, what's it called? Asian. This is another barber shop. So you should raid all the Asian shops, the vape shops, then all the Vietnamese salon, another barber shop. All right. So, but most of these barber shops here are held by locals anyway. So I think we're going to get into that. But I'll just say there's a bit of xenophobia basically about that. That people actually wonder what's going on. Why are there so many Turkish barber shops in the high streets in the UK, England and Wales? And people then say in Plymouth is the same thing, just people complaining. But something I would say is this. Someone asked the question, said, don't blame the player, blame the game. Who are these, how come the council is actually giving these people the permits? Which is a very good question. Is this another, no, this is not a barber shop. This is just your regular, there's another barber shop here, so here, okay. Now there's another one. The light, it basically tells you it's a barber shop. So there's about 6 on this street alone, but held by locals. So one of the questions I have is that if these shops were held by locals, you know, English, British people, will there be such an outcry? To a certain degree, there'll probably be an outcry if they were also using it as a front, and then you go for your £15 haircut and you get a bad haircut and then you're not happy. Yeah, you might think, yeah, I don't like this. Let me cross the road. All right. So that is one of the problems that people might have with regards to barbershops. And then people said, well, whilst you're at it, you should also look at all the nail salons, Vietnamese nail salons. You should look at all the car wash, you know, raid those too. And then you should also raid all the disco shops selling vapes, crisps. I didn't even know that was a thing, that you have a disco shop. Outfits? Okay. You have a disco shops and they sell crisps. And then they said also raid all the Chinese takeaways. And then and someone summarizes it this way: any business on the high street that's only cash only, they should raid them, because all those businesses are all a front for money laundering and all these other illegal activities, illicit activities. And then someone says, whilst you're at it, raid also the tattoo parlors. And I'm like, what the heck is going on in England? All right. And the reason why I say this is just really bizarre. Let me cross the road. All right. The reason why I say it is strange is that, given the list of all the businesses that have been mentioned, fish and chips shop, I don't know if that's the case, but given the list, you might end up with another problem. So, and the problem is, a lot of people have been saying that over the years, a lot of high streets have been closing. Most of the shops are closing, and this is what a lot of people actually fail to realize, is that if you have all these stores closing and being taken over by stores, barber shops, doner kebab shops, turkey barber shops, then it means there is a problem in the economy, that a lot of the high streets are not being taken over by locals, or the businesses are basically dying, and they're being taken over by all these foreigners, as they're called. So the problem is, if you let the high street die, what is the solution? Is there anything you can do to actually fix the problem? Think about that. And I think that's going to be very difficult to actually fix, because a lot of the local businesses, a lot of the barbershops that used to exist before, most of those people either did something, they retired because they're older, and new generation is not taking over those businesses. So young people are doing something different. They want to be influencers. They want to be everything. That's a black model. You don't see often a lot of those. So the younger generation wants to be influencers. They want to be famous on TikTok. They don't want to be barbers. So people who are actually barbers, what happened to them is that they grow old, they die, and they're not being replaced. And the same thing happens for all these other smaller businesses, all the normal corner stores that used to just be available. Most of them have either moved online or they've just died out. So because of that, the council has a problem to deal with. And that problem is, how do you then fill out all those locations that are now closing out? This is where the immigrants come in, and the immigrants are taking over. But unfortunately, I think probably one of the problems that a lot of people have with immigrants is the type of immigration that's coming in. If they're coming in and laundering money, and probably just making the place, laundering money, there are a lot of people here. So, if people are laundering money, then it means they're also into other illicit activities like selling, illicit drugs, and that can become a problem for a lot of people. So you have those problems. But then what does the council need to do to fix it? You can't just have fictive, stores in the high street and just with nothing to sell or no one opening businesses. And this is where the problem is. I think if you're able to resolve that, and then it's easy, then you can limit the amount of stores that, or the Turkish barber shop that are a front for all these other things. And another thing I want to highlight here is this: people say Turkish barber shops. Not every barber shop with a Middle Eastern person is from Turkey. There are Iranians, there are there are Egyptians, all these other people. But it seems that the Turkish are a bit more, well, probably a bit more numerous. So you have those type of things. Anyway, the point is this: that how are you going to replace all these businesses, tanning shops, fried chicken, pizza parlors, all these businesses that are now being held by immigrants? How are you going to replace them with what local born British people? What are you going to replace them with? I think that's the question I don't see in any of these conversation. And someone has said, well, you know what you could do to solve the problem? Anytime you see any of those barber shops that are front for illegal activities, you should seize everything they own and deport them all. And people say, of course, that's wishful thinking. That's never going to happen. Which is a very valid point. Because, I think the council and the government seems to just decide, well, we know it's there, we'll try to limit it a bit, but it's business as usual. And for local people don't understand it. So that is a problem that needs to be solved. And at the moment, there isn't an easy solution. No one has a solution for it. Most desk people, people sitting behind their desk or behind their phone, what they do is they have this solution in their mind that would fix everything. Just deport everyone, stop giving them licenses, but they're not worrying about the other problem. Someone needs to pay all the council tax, and if the council is not getting enough revenue, it's just going to be a really big problem. So I don't think there is an issue, a solution to that. And part of it is because a lot of the manufacturing that used to happen in the UK have been moved abroad. So you've got people ordering their things online, and automation is killing a lot of everything in the main street. A lot of things that people, even the younger people, for example, there was white pubs are also closing for the simple reason that the newer generation don't socialize like they used to. They do their socializing online. All right, this is another barber shop. So it's a nail salon and barber shop. So anytime you see this light in front, it says it's a barber shop. So that's like 7 or 8 at the center, but they're not in the same streets, but they're not far from each other. Something I've always wondered as well is that even if you go to these cheap barber shop, the Turkish ones, and maybe it's illegal, they're doing dodgy things, even if that's the case, if you were to get rid of all of them, what happens? Of course, they're all gone. You still have some British locals with barbershops. What's going to do? Everyone needs a haircut every now and then, so you go there, and guess what he's going to do? He's going to raise the price because he's just got too many customers, and because you don't really have a choice, you need to pay. So the competition coming from all these is good and is also bad, depending on where you stand on the issue. So people have said, what about the issue of human trafficking that goes behind the scene, where people are being trafficked? Some of the people who came, who work in these stores, the barber shops, they've been trafficked to the UK, and then they work there, they can't leave, all that stuff. And I'm like, well, that's another thing. Why is it that the locals, everyone in the community knows, yes, this is happening, but very little is being done? I think it boils down to the economy. The government wants the economy to keep running, and they're willing to do whatever it takes to actually achieve that. And you see that a lot in, I think there's probably a lobbying as well. I think the same thing happens in Paris, where the locals were selling, they pay their taxes, and they were selling the miniature tourist traps, basically, of things that people buy. All right, so this is another salon, and this one is linked to, you have the car wash, and then you have the barber shop here. So you have some of the pictures, and yeah, about 8 or so within, I don't know, 5-10 minutes walk from each other. So if you look at this here, so you can wash it, you can have your car washed, and then you can also get a haircut, which I think is quite genius actually, because most of the people coming to wash their cars are men, and then whilst you're waiting for your car to be washed, you get a haircut. Cool, nice idea. You can't fault that. All right, back to the story of haircut. I've thought about this, and I don't think there is an easy solution, because I think what's happening is that it's just like anytime you have a when people say, oh, you should arrest all the drug dealers and deport them, especially if they're foreigners, and you've done that, but then you're not dealing with the problem, is that users, the same thing, or like the war on drugs, and the US was like, hey, everybody, you should send the Mexicans and the Colombians away. But then people said, well, maybe you should stop your people from being drug addicts, because if there is no market for it, you don't even have to, it would just die out, and it's just that simple. But unfortunately, there's a big market for it. And I think the same thing happens with the barbershops, that first of all, it's a double-edged sword. They come in, all the front stores, because business is going out, you've got vacancies, so they can rent out those little sections of stores, and then they bring people in illegally. You know, the people crossing the boats from France or the Channel Tunnel, all those people, they come in, and then they end up just working there for peanuts, and they can afford to start giving haircuts for £10 or something. And guess what the locals do? Haircut for £10? Oh, that's a good deal. Let me go and get my haircut there. And before you know it, someone charging £15 to £20 is like, oh, all my customers are now gone. What do I do? Well, there isn't much you can do. It's competition. People say, well, it's a bad haircut, but it's still £10 or £5. I don't know. It's cheap, put it that way. And that is where the problem is. That as long as people would continue to use the services, even if they know it might be shady, it is going to just continue to exist. There isn't much you can do about that. And also the council wants the money, so that's why they give the permits to do that. And they said, look, they presented all the papers, but we don't control what happens inside. That's the police job, and that's it. So yeah, what can you do? There isn't much you can do, I suppose. You can just you can move away. Talk about moving away. there is something called the white flight. The white flight is basically something I think that's very common in the US when a lot of integration, you have segregation and then you have integration when they decided, hey, we're going to start putting people, we're going to start integrating, blacks and white and all these other races. And people thought, oh, is it because of that? No, it was apparently a class war. Basically, if you live in an area that's affluent and you start getting low income people moving into the area, what happens? Those who want to keep the price of their housing and the estate agents that were also trying to get them to sell for cheap so that they can make their commissions. So all those people basically were involved, and that's when then all of a sudden you see a demographic shift from maybe just local people with the same ethnicity moving to something very similar to what you see in where then it becomes like London, very cosmopolitan, a lot of people from everywhere. You just know you're in a big city, that's it. The culture is just mixed, and then you have enclaves like Brixton, Camden, you have like Jewish section, you have the Asian section, you have the African section, you have all those Peckham, all that stuff. So what you're seeing is just the evolution of migration. And personally, I don't think there is any solution. This is another store. This is, well, it's not, it's a beauty salon, put it that way. So I think at the moment we're at a stage where people are going to complain about it, and if they don't like it, they can move away to another section, but it's not going to change. I think the UK, with globalization and mass tourism and mass immigration, is just going to continue for the foreseeable future. So that is just the reality of life. Let's see what happens after that. It's going to be rather interesting to see.